Please.
Hey bosses, welcome to a new episode of Boss Please. It's Jillian here with Malynda and Meghan. Hello ladies.
Hi.
So I want to know how you guys are a boss this week first. So tell me, please.
I am excited because thanks to your journey, Jill, I've started my own therapy journey. So I made the calls and I'm waiting to hear back from I had to end up calling like my insurance, long story, insurance. But yeah, so I called and I'm waiting for a call to start that process.
Huge step.
It was
Awesome.
a huge step.
Proud of you, girl.
Thank you.
Of course.
I'm excited.
Melinda?
I was a good dog mama this week and took my stubborn little butt head of a dog. She's the absolute best, to the vet for her yearly physical, and she was so ridiculous. I mean, the drama that dog exudes is oh my gosh, she just whines and looks at me with these eyes like, why am I here? Megan's face right now.
I love
because
I know
you love your little Cora
so much.
But she's so dramatic. Like, we go there, it's the same place, same doctor. She always does that with the groomer. She always whines. She's ridiculous. She doesn't like to go on walks. I don't know, she's weird. But
Cora's
she's awesome.
a boss in and of itself. Like, she's just a boss. She's the boss of all boss
She's
dogs.
so funny. She has such a very distinct personality. She cracks me up. I think she's hilarious.
She's so cute.
But yes, I was a good dog mom because I took her to the vet.
How about you, Jill?
I took my boyfriend on a date night.
Oh,
Which,
did you pay?
Yes, I did. He just wrapped a huge job and I'm super proud of him. He was the first AD on a movie and it took a lot of our time together. Basically I like equate it to, sounds like sexy, but we were strangers in the night for a while. I would be sleeping, he would come to bed at like 12:30 after he's done with set. And then in the morning he wakes up and he walks out the door and I really don't see him. And even on the weekends, like, he's exhausted. So he wrapped the job and we decided to check out a musical at the Almondson in downtown LA. And it was really great. Like, we dressed up and we never do that. And I feel like, you can like be like special and sexy and fun and have a date night. So yeah, it was a great time.
That's really cool.
So this is our Thanksgiving episode. And we did this last year. So I kind of want to know, as a little wrap up, what are we all very thankful for this year?
I feel like I probably say the same things every year. And I know I've said it in past podcasts, but so thankful to finally feel like I have a family out here,
Yeah.
because I was one of those that I never thought I'd be able to live home or leave home. I love my family. I love my mom and dad. And the thought of moving 3,000 miles away from Boston to come here was just like, I never thought I could do it. I was such a homebody at home too. Like, I would just watch TV with my parents. Like, that's what I did. And knowing that I know I have friends like you two that would drop anything, unless Melinda's flying somewhere, but to be there for me is I'm so thankful for that.
But I would buy Wi-Fi on the plane if you needed
girl.
me.
I know you would. And I'm also thankful for the journey. I feel like, each year, every time a new year comes around, you think, oh, this is going to be my year. This is going to be my year. It has been a tough year, but a year of lots of growth for sure.
Good.
Yeah.
Great.
What about you guys?
I am thankful that everything I set out to do this year, I've been able to do. Yes. It hasn't been easy. I'm like perpetually tired this year, but I did it to myself, but I had to prove to myself that I could do what I wanted to do. And I'm thankful that I have a lot of support, even when I feel like I don't have support. Like, if I actually look at my surroundings, like, I do have a lot of support. And that, yeah, I just feel like being able to make goals for myself that sometimes seem unachievable, that I've actually been able to achieve them. So I'm grateful for that.
Amazing. Obviously the whole, thankful for my family, thankful for, the life that I have and the life that I've built, but really thankful this year for people that follow through. I just kind of value those people differently in my life, the dependable ones. And I don't know if that comes with age or, whatever, but I've just seen such a difference and I've kind of paid attention to that this year. So the people that commit and those are the ones that matter.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're obviously going to ask our guest the same exact thing because I'm curious to know what she's thankful for.
Of course.
I know she's probably thankful for Sunday football because she does work for the NFL
Yes.
Network. Taylor Bisciotti will be with us in just a minute, so stay tuned. Welcome back, bosses. We are super excited to be here with NFL Network anchor reporter Taylor Bisciotti. She is used to tackling all sides of the entertainment industry as a fashionista and a football fanatic. The fearless female leader in sports has already made her mark as the youngest on-air talent for the NFL Network. And as a journalist, she is shaping the world of sports, reporting by not only telling fan tales of triumph on the turf, but also the unique stories behind the players. Taylor's playbook is chock full of formations that are shaping women empowerment in the field of sports and the connection between the players and fans that stem from them. Welcome, Taylor.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us.
Of course. So, you come from a Southern football family. How did you know that you wanted to do this as a career?
I really didn't, honestly. I was in my fourth year of accounting, and I was getting prepared to go into my fifth year and do my MACC, and then you pretty much have the next 10 years mapped out for you. You join one of the big four, you literally have 10 years mapped out for you. And I was thinking to myself, I'm sitting in I'm in the spring semester, my last year, and I'm thinking, I cannot do this. This is just this is not me. I could not imagine myself crunching numbers all day and not really talking to that many people. And so I decided to switch career paths. That summer I interned at WUSA 9, which is the CBS affiliate in DC. And I decided to go back to school for digital and broadcast journalism.
Wow.
So I kind of came from a point where I felt like I was always one step behind because I felt like, oh my gosh, people have already graduated and already have jobs, and here I am just going back to school for what I want to go into. So looking back on it, I'm not mad that I graduated with a business degree. I do think that it helps. I think that honestly every experience that you go through kind of helps shape who you are. So I don't feel as behind as I did, but there was definitely a period of 3 to 4 years where I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. What am I going to do? I feel 10 steps behind everyone.
How did you ultimately break into the world of sports?
So I've always been a sports fanatic. Growing up, I've just grown up in a very, very football-centric family. On Sundays, we were just, even as kids, we were never even allowed to invite our friends over because it was such a serious day in our family. If we weren't kind of traveling to go to games, we were always watching them at home. And my dad was like, no distractions. And then I grew up with a brother, and then including him, was 4 boys on my dad's side of the family. And so I was also the youngest. So in order to fit in, I kind of had to learn football to learn what to talk about with them. That's all that they ever talked about. They kind of breathed and slept it. And so I all of a sudden became a huge football fan at such a young age. So not only with living in the South and living in Atlanta and then going to Georgia, an SEC football school, I was also a diehard NFL fan. So it was only natural that I am now in football.
I love that. Well, you've clearly proven yourself basically based on the story that you just told us and kind of changing career paths. But also your uncle, he is the majority owner of the Ravens. So did you feel like an extra, that you really had to prove yourself or
Definitely. It's always kind of in the back of your mind that people are going to assume that you got your job because of, connections or whatnot. But I think it took a long time for me to kind of realize that a connection can always get you in the door somewhere. Sure, it gives you a great advantage of, getting meetings and whatnot. But right. I think that it's your work ethic and it's your performance what makes you stay.
100%. Couldn't agree more.
So we mentioned before that you are the youngest on-air talent that the NFL has ever hired. Do you ever find that the more experienced reporters and athletes might judge you because of your age?
No, you would think, especially note that when it comes to athletes, I feel like that's the one advantage that I do have is that because I am younger, most of these athletes are younger, they're just coming out of college and they're young. And so, especially when you're talking to them, I feel like I can almost relate to them a little bit better. And I feel like sometimes they feel a little bit more comfortable with me. Now, in terms of how I convey that to an audience, I don't know if I'm as polished as somebody that's been doing this for 15 years. Absolutely not. But I think it's kind of a give and take. And I think that there's different outlets, especially with digital media and social media, that I feel like I can excel at and provide some sort of benefit than an older reporter that could do. Whereas the, veteran reporter is definitely going to be more polished on air and is going to have a lot of more skills and tools and whatnot. But I do think that there are areas in which you can kind of use your age to an advantage.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So when it comes to reporting, do you prefer the action of the sidelines, or do you like sharing the stories behind the players?
I like sharing the short stories behind the players. I think that sidelines are great in terms of, getting the fans what they need to know immediately and being the eyes and ears on the field. I think that's always really neat. But I do love sharing the stories behind the players. I think that a lot of times the players' personalities don't get showcased that much. You just think about these guys that are just behind helmets and on teams, and you don't really think about who they are as people and, what their story is. And I think that Hard Knocks, for example, does a great job of showing that. And I think that every year fans fall in love with whichever team is doing Hard Knocks, because you get to know these third-string players and these guys that are just fighting to make a spot, fighting for a spot on the team, especially in preseason. In training camp. And so I think that kind of helps fans relate to them. And I think that it humanizes these players as individuals rather than just players.
Awesome. So we've seen a lot with sort of women in your industry and really entertainment in general and how they're treated, and especially with the Me Too movement super ramped up. We were just kind of curious, especially because we're seeing a lot of these athletes' personal lives play out on screen in headlines. Have you ever felt mistreated?
I really haven't. I think that it's unfortunate for anybody that obviously has been mistreated. Obviously very unacceptable. So I do think that a lot of the responsibility does sometimes lie within the women too, and how they portray themselves in a locker room and whatnot. If you treat players in a professional manner and you present yourself in a professional manner, then I've never had an issue with them kind of crossing the line. I do think that obviously there are situations in which, that does happen, but I've never really had that happen to me. So I can't really say that I have, and I just think that, I do think that it is great that we are seeing so many more females in media and in sports. And it has become much more acceptable than even 10 years ago to see women in the booth or on, Sunday morning football shows. And I think that's great.
I think it's great that you've had a positive experience and you haven't had to worry about that.
Absolutely. So speaking of worrying, you said in a past interview that you are a worrier. And girl, I can relate to that because I worry all the time. How do you deal with that and self-doubt in the position that you're in?
Yeah, I still to this day worry all the time. I try and always enjoy and live in the moment rather than worrying about what's your next step or what should I be doing now to set myself up for what my next move is. And I think that's just kind of I don't know if you can ever really change your personality, but I think that there's ways that you can just learn to embrace where you are and embrace the journey a little bit more rather than trying to figure out what your next step is. I think that's kind of what I'm trying to focus on doing right now, and not just always worrying about what I should be doing or what this person is doing, because everybody, especially in this field and probably in any field, everybody takes a different path and everybody goes a different route. And that's what makes your journey unique.
Absolutely.
Amazing. So this is our Thanksgiving episode. And earlier in the show, we kind of did a little bit of rundown of what we're thankful for this year. So we wanted to know what you're thankful for.
I am thankful for my family, of course. I have the best family. They're my rock. Speaking of getting nervous and whatnot, my dad, I always try and talk to him before something I'm about to go do or about to do an interview or a show or something like that, and I'm getting nervous. I always talk to my dad, and he puts things into perspective for me.
That's
he
great.
Totally is somebody that just puts everything, makes it seem like it's not a big deal. The world could be crumbling down around us, and he'd be like, you know what, it's okay. Everything's going to be fine. It's just everybody's gone through it. Is it really that big of a deal? So I'm very thankful for him. I'm thankful for my mom, my brother, awesome friends. I have lots to be thankful for.
Is it hard being away from your family? Because you're pretty far from home.
Yeah, it really, surprisingly, I thought that it would be, because I obviously went to Georgia, which was very close to home, so it was an hour and a half car ride away. And so I saw them all the time. But being out here, I really don't see them as much. They do come out and visit, and they have a place in Manhattan Beach, so they come out for the summer. Great. And even when they're here, I always kind of feel bad when they leave. I'm like, gosh, I didn't even get to spend that much time with them, just because, Manhattan Beach is with traffic. Traffic in LA is crazy, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's like going to another
from
state.
Beverly Hills, which is where I live. And so I'm always like, oh, shoot, I should have spent more time with them. But, I think it's just part of growing up. I mean, when we are together, it's great, but we still talk on the phone and everything. I would have thought if 5 years ago, I would have thought, oh gosh, if I lived in LA, that would be really tough. But it hasn't really been that hard. So
that's amazing.
Nice.
That's good. I am also close with my family. I had to move far from home, so I can completely relate. So
I talk to my mom like 24/7. That we're always texting. She probably gets
that's
crazy about all my texts. Like she'll be in the middle of a tennis match and be like, "Honey, it's been an hour and a half. You sent me 10 text messages." I'm like, yeah, where have you been? What have you been doing?
But I love that. I love that so much. So for our listeners out there that maybe are thinking about taking the sports reporter route someday, what would be your advice to them?
My biggest advice would be learn digital. Digital really is the future. Like where you think that you might be taking a less position if you're going the digital route rather than broadcast route. As somebody that's in like the broadcast route right now, I'm trying to do as much on digital as possible because I feel like it's rare that people are going home after work and watching a show. What they do is they get on their phone and they go on Instagram, they go on Twitter, and that's how they're getting their news. And that's how you really need to set yourself up so you can communicate with them, because that's the route that they're going. So I would say learn digital and chase your dreams feverishly. Doesn't matter how many no's you get. It only takes one yes.
That's great advice.
Sound advice.
I needed that myself.
I love that. Well,
I need it every day. So I actually have it written down on my mirror.
Oh,
Yes,
I love
girl.
that's great.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day of watching football and studying up for your job. Super important.
No, I was happy to talk to you guys. Don't worry. It looks like the Patriots are making a run right now.
Oh, thank gosh.
I don't know if they're going to pull it off today.
Thank you for your exclusive play-by-play right now because I'm sweating over here.
So for those fans that want to keep up with you, where can they find you?
I am on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Taylor Bisciotti.
Amazing.
So very consistent. I don't switch up my name.
Love it.
Fantastic.
Keep it simple. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We had a blast talking to you.
Thank you so much.
Of course, and to our listeners, we will see you next week.
Bye.
Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Boss Please Pod. And don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe on iTunes. Navigate the path to your best self with us, because bossing together is always better.